back candidates. Let us now hear how the candidates will address our economic issues. Will Mrs. Berger please proceed on questioning the candidates regarding this important issue?
Welcome back. Mr. Clinton, according to NBC exit polls in November 2025, the economy and personal finance were top of mind for many voters in states like New Jersey and Virginia. 60% of New Jersey voters said that the economy is not so good or poor. Furthermore, in recent weeks, Fox News, citing its own bipartisan polling, reported that a plurality of Americans said that Trump's economic policies have hurt them, with even most Republicans declining to say his policies have helped. What has Trump done with regard to the economy that you would have done differently?
Well, first of all, he's cutting taxes on wealthy citizens and corporations. As a matter of fact, he cut corporate tax from 35% to 21%. And his tax reforms have been disproportionately benefiting these higher income individuals and owners of passive businesses, in contrast to these middle class citizens that are sitting right in front of us, hearing you lie about wanting to help them in this economy.
Can you please tell me what you would do differently?
What I would do differently is I would raise taxes on the wealthy and these corporations, and reduce taxes on the middle class. Because we know that these wealthy people, we know they can pay these higher taxes. Yet, but you refuse to make them do so. So what I will do is I'll raise taxes on the wealthy and corporations. Increase the median family income for these middle class families, and reduce our poverty rate, and create new jobs.
Mr. Trump?
While Bill Clinton speaks so highly of his economy, in 1999, under the Graham-Leach-Bailey Act, you led financial deregulation and repealed the Glass-Steagall Act and contributed to the 2008 financial crisis. So we have a president who likes to talk so highly of this economy, but yet contributes to financial crisis. Under my presidency, our economy, GDP grew 2.8% in 2018. Our unemployment fell to 3.5%, the lowest ever seen in 50 years, while the stock market grew 30%. Wages grew higher and higher for the low and middle class by 3.2% in 2019.
Mr. Newsom, would you like to add?
I would like to add that Bill Clinton's economy was not in fact his making. The Republican Congress passed tax cuts in order to allow the middle class to live the life that it partially lives now. But furthermore, his North American Free Trade Agreement has not only caused damages to the environment, but it has caused $15 billion worth of damages. The good that he's done comes with the cost of our environment and our future.
Mr. Clinton, would you like to respond?
So, Mr. Trump, you want to say I'm hurting our economy, and that I contributed to the 2008 economic crisis. But did you know that I had the largest 3-year pay down of our national debt, and actually had a plan to pay off the debt in its entirety by 2009?
Did you also know you caused over 1 million employees in manufacturing to lose their jobs?
Mr. Clinton?
I I created 22 million jobs by reducing tariffs that you keep increasing today, and by signing the the NAFTA Act that created free trade between us, Mexico, and Canada. So, which have actually boosted our economy by our export grew 74% with $500 billion and increased job opportunities. So, what million jobs are you referring to?
Mr. Trump? Yes.
Again, I'd like to state that whereas the North American Free Trade Agreement was helpful, it did cause damages. Additionally, throughout your presidency, you have caused these damages will not stand. If your economic benefit comes at the cost of our environment, what is to say that you will not continue to use our environment to your expense in order to make yourself and your economy look good?
Mr. Kennedy?
I want to further on a point made about tariffs. You guys talk about Nixon and Trump. You guys talk about building the middle class up, but with Trump's tariffs, he has eliminated the middle class and has started to eliminate the middle class in its entirety.
Mr. Clinton, and then we'll go back over to Mr. Trump and Mr. Nixon.
Mr. Nixon, do you realize that when you left office, you left the Americans to suffer during rising inflation and the 1973 oil shock and already declining economic climate? Do you realize that our oil prices originally doubled and then quadrupled in price and threatened global recession?
And we'll finish with Mr. Nixon. Mr. Obama?
I never claimed to have the best economy. That's what Trump's here for.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Mr. Johnson, as you are aware, around 42 million Americans depend on Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or the SNAP, monthly. That represents about 1 in 8 U.S. residents. Currently, SNAP serves as our nation's largest anti-hunger effort for low-income individuals, children, seniors, and people with disabilities. During our recent government shutdown, SNAP benefits were disrupted. In previous shutdowns, SNAP benefits had never been disrupted. In fact, the program has been ongoing for 60 years. You have claimed that Trump's actions with this issue are cruel, morally wrong, appalling, and politically motivated. What makes you feel that these actions are politically motivated with regards to SNAP? Mr. Trump, we would also like to hear your defense after Mr. Johnson offers his reason.
I see this as cruel because never before in any shutdown has SNAP been interrupted. They have always found a way to keep SNAP continuing, to feed our needy and to feed the American people. So now that when you're president, when you refuse to compromise with the Democrats on a budget and you freeze the economy, who decides to freeze SNAP? Who decides to cut back on SNAP and make Americans starve? As winter rolls in, as the hardest times roll in, and people go hungry and cold, this is not reasonable. This is cruel. This is horrifying.
Mr. Trump?
During the government shutdown, it was politically motivated action brought by the Democrats who chose to keep their government shut down instead of reopening and negotiating with us. Instead of helping the American people, they chose to hurt the American people. talking about the staff benefits, I simply want to require more work requirements. My question to the fellow Americans in this room, do you want people who choose not to work and stay lazy at home and not provide anything for our economy get these benefits? No.
Mr. Kennedy?
With our plan, we will be able to protect SNAP, which is a proven anti-hunger program, focus on efficiency and fraud prevention without punishing families who actually need it, because there are families who need it and have no money to spend on these benefits. But also, we will link support with job training opportunities where it is appropriate.
Mr. Nixon? Or Mr. Trump, either one, want to respond?
I would like to ask you what you actually intend to do for SNAP. All you said was that you would not let it happen again. But furthermore, how will you link this to more job opportunities?
First off, I didn't just say, I apologize. I don't understand what you were saying because I said we are going to focus on efficiency and fraud prevention without punishing families who need help.
Mr. Clinton, have to finish with Mr. Trump?
So, welfare, I believe that welfare shouldn't be treated like a lifestyle. Because there are many, like John Kennedy said, there are people who commit frauds in order to receive more benefits from our welfare system, which includes SNAP. And I believe that it eliminates that sense of dignity that America should have, because they're treating needing government assistance to just to get by as a lifestyle, when it should be a second chance to get back on your feet. But Mr. Trump, you have a history of blaming Democrats for things that don't really have anything, well, they do have things to do with them, but it wasn't their fault. And I believe you're taking advantage of the fact that there are people who live with welfare as like a lifestyle and when you shut down the government in order to hurt this lower class citizens.
As I said again, the government shutdown was a politically motivated opportunity for the other side to hurt our American people. And John F. Kennedy, you talk about helping these poor Americans when poverty rates skyrocketed to 20% under your administration, while $400 million a year was going into our debt because you escalated Vietnam.
All right, thank you, candidates. Thank you, Mrs. Berger. We're going to move on to the next topic of discussion, which is national security and immigration. Mr. Ta and Ms. Moylan will now pose the questions to the candidates regarding these lingering issues.
Mr. Nixon, in a post-September 11, 2001 world, many Americans are still very much concerned about our national security. Former President Ronald Reagan famously used to say that in order for the United States to remain powerful in a challenging and competitive world, we have to be in a position of strength, which includes spending heavily on our national defense. How would a Trump-Nixon administration ensure that the United States remains in the most powerful position in the world? Basically, why should we trust our national security in your hands instead of your competition?
You should trust our national security with us, because not only will we pay to have our military well outfitted and ready to defend our nation, but we will negotiate with anything that can pose any sort of threat to us, not only for our benefit, but for theirs, so that they do not need to threaten us. We will allow our nation to work with its enemies so long as everybody benefits and nobody gets hurt in the process. Our military will have an immense budget, but it will serve the purpose of defense. It will not go out to fight war just because it has to, unless we have good reason for it, or unless there is no other option.
Mr. Trump, you want to add?
Also with immigration, we will secure our borders even more, increase ICE activity near our borders to stop these illegal criminals from bypassing through our borders and coming into our country to distribute drugs and enacting criminal behavior.
Mr. Eisenhower.
I don't know how anyone can trust Nixon. On October 24th, 1973, Nixon was so drunk that he couldn't be awakened to go to the Situation Room to address a DEFCON Level 3 international security threat. It was the most serious security threat level since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Admiral Moore, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said that the White House could not respond to the threat because America did not have a functioning president. I don't know how anyone in this country can, again, trust you because of your resignation with Watergate and this drunken state where we could have been bombed.
Mr. Nixon, do you have a response?
Yes. You speak of mistakes that have been made in the past, but note that each one of those mistakes only happened once in America's history because we have learned from what has happened. Why would we allow that to happen again? Why would I allow one of my mistakes to occur again?
Mr. Eisenhower.
The fact that you did it once means that you could do it again. I mean, I don't know how anyone could possibly trust you if you did it once. That's insane.
Mr. Nixon.
I'd like to say that you didn't learn from your past mistakes. Not only did you fail your Guatemalan coup, you then went to Iran and successfully committed a coup, creating complete instability after the previous threat that you created for us, attempting to overthrow the Guatemalan government. You have twice now attempted to sabotage our security by causing us to have conflict unnecessarily with other countries because of your benefits.
Mr. Eisenhower, do you have a response?
I do. As Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces in World War II, I understand the horrors of war better than any other candidate. My administration enjoyed 7.5 years of peace. It is my duty to keep America out of war. These coups in Iran and Guatemala, which were orchestrated by the CIA, were necessary to keep the peace. Thousands of lives were spared. The United States did not take any formal stance against either of these operations.
Mr. Kennedy.
You talk about not making the mistakes again, but you will never have the opportunity to because you resigned from office and then there was never a national security threat like that again. So how do you say that these problems won't happen again when each and every time problems that are similar happen and there's no change? You can't trust someone who shows no change and will never have the opportunity to do it again because they'll never be president again.
Mr. Nixon.
My resignation came to allow us to focus on other things. I haven't had the opportunity since because I have been less involved in politics since. I have learned from these opportunities. It has been over 50 years. And if you don't believe that a man can change in 50 years, then why are you here today? Why do you believe in our people if you don't think that any of us who've done anything wrong can improve and learn from what we've done?
Mr. Kennedy.
I do believe that you can change, but you have been given multiple chances and haven't proven yourself with.
Let's move on. Mr. Eisenhower, then we will move on.
It's not that we can't believe that someone can't change in 50 years. It's because we can't believe you can change in 50 years.
Mr. Trump, on December 2nd, 2025, high-ranking members of the House Rules Committee, Human Rights Commission, and House Foreign Affairs Western Hemisphere Subcommittee introduced a War Powers Resolution to block the United States military from engaging in hostilities within or against Venezuela without congressional authorization. support or oppose the resolution and why?
I oppose this resolution. Due to the fact that why should we sit by as these criminals come to our country to distribute drugs and engage in criminal behavior, threatening our national security? As a president, I told you that what matters is our national security and the people.
Mr. Clinton?
Mr. Trump, your actions in Venezuela you've been bordering on on actual war, which is completely unconstitutional. Because these wars, you're engaging in hostility against and within Venezuela without them even attacking the U.S. So with that, under the Constitution, you don't have the justification to engage in these kinds of hostilities without congressional approval, which is why this resolution was introduced in order to make sure that you didn't take us into a war that was completely unnecessary and completely unconstitutional.
Mr. Nixon?
The guy who said he should win a peace award, by the way.
And a guy who could never end a war.
I didn't.
They may not have attacked us through any conventional means, but what they have done is they've sent their people, they've sent their drugs. They are killing our people. They might not be doing it through a conventional attack. They might not even be doing it through government. But their citizens are harming our own, and we have to stand up to this. If we don't, then we will have another issue all over again, and I'd like Trump to add to this.
And as John F. Kennedy spoke, he tried an invasion in a backyard country that was a national security threat to the United States of America, Cuba. And what I'm doing is around the same thing that John F. Kennedy is doing, protecting our national security.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yeah, but I actually use my brain and I don't just decide let's nuke them.
All right. So, Mr. Trump, you keep going on about this protecting the American people, but when you make these attacks, in no way have you requested authorization from Congress to use military force, and you lack credible justification for these unauthorized attacks on Venezuelan vessels, and these actions have resulted in the extrajudicial killing of dozens of people, without congressional authorization. So, at this point, it is bordering on war. So, which is completely unconstitutional with the way you're going about it.
Mr. Trump and Mr. Nixon, and then we will move on to our next topic.
You say I don't have a brain. After the Bay of Pigs invasion, you almost started a nuclear war. Bill Clinton, you speak on my foreign policy against Venezuela and me not protecting the American people. When in 1993 in Somalia, you had the death of 18 soldiers simply because you were nation rebuilding. Why would we want a president who focuses so much on rebuilding other nations than his own?
John, we didn't mention nuclear weapons. Where is this coming from?
First, I would like to say, with the Cuban Missile Crisis, I handled that with dignity and strength that you have never shown.
All right, we must move on to our next topic.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fatah, Ms. Moynihan, and candidates. We will now turn our attention to education. Mr. Gold and Ms. Moynihan will now ask the question pertaining to this topic.
Mr. Kennedy, a new proposed bill presented in the Mission require age checks for accounts on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The law would require social media companies to verify a user's age when opening or accessing an account. If the user is under the age of 18, the platform must confirm parental consent before the account can be activated. The law would also give parents access to their child's account, including posts and message responses. Minors' accounts would be locked from 10:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. daily unless a parent changes the settings. A large group of Michigan educators are arguing that the law should restrict social media usage during the school day as well. First, do you support a federal law that would mimic the bill just described? Second, do you agree or disagree with the educators' proposals? Why?
First, I disagree with this. We should not pass this law. This takes away from the freedom and the rights that American citizens have. I personally think that my own personal opinion on the matter does not affect what actions are taken. This is a law that takes away from the freedom of the citizens. This is not a law where, as a parent, I would want my child to do a certain thing. Those are things that parents can decide, but I disagree that citizens should take, that the law should take away from the rights and the freedom of the citizens of the United States.
Mr. Eisenhower.
What if a child sees explicit content on there? You say you don't want to infringe on their rights, but what about infringing on their innocence?
There's ways that parents, again, can put in to make sure that these things are not seen by children.
Mr. Nixon.
This law in Michigan outlined that these restrictions would be at the parent's discretion and that they have control over what's happening. If you oppose this, then why not allow us to pass this bill and simply allow the parents to dictate what their children should be allowed to do?
Mr. Trump, and then Mr. Eisenhower.
When you become a parent, the number one thing you have to do is protect your children. And by protecting your children, by passing this law, we protect them from seeing explicit content, being bullied online, and leading to mental illness later in their futures.
And what if the parent is not present, unfortunately present in their life? What if the parent cannot be able to moderate what they're looking at online?
Mr. Kennedy, and then Mr. Clinton.
And I think that it's a useful thing in that matter. If they have no parent or no adult figure in their life, then they need a way to learn how to grow up and become adults. And that is part of growing up.
Mr. Clinton.
I do disagree with this law, as it does infringe on the rights of privacy that American citizens do have. But there are benefits that can be seen in this law, such as, because when children on social media, people do tend to post things online that they shouldn't, and things that can even indicate signs of something deeper within them, like such as their mental health, that could be seen by their parents, and their parents could take action should they see these kinds of posts and help the child as they're supposed to.
We are going to move on to our next question.
Mr. Nixon, as of December 2025, politicians' stances on AI are split between fostering innovation and mitigating risks, with both political parties expressing concerns but differing on regulatory approaches, leading to various state-level laws and federal debates on guardrails, transparency, and ensuring AI benefits all Americans. How do you feel about the societal impact of artificial intelligence or AI? Is artificial intelligence a societal threat or a beneficial technological evolution?
AI comes in many forms, and in these many forms, the answer is that it is both. It can be helpful to the society. It allows high school students and college students assistance in their researching opportunities. It allows them to focus on what truly matters to them, especially if they already know what they're doing. If they know what they're doing, they don't have to use AI. And if they don't know what they're doing, they can use AI to understand it better. However, it does come with its own drawbacks. It can be used for academic dishonesty, in that it write your essays for you. It can answer your questions if you don't know what you're doing. It has its drawbacks, it has its strengths. Overall, restrictions should come. However, they should be dictated by local community, by what is necessary for their people. And I'd like Trump to add to this.
By progressing into a AI-based future, this would eliminate jobs and increase, as Richard Nixon said, academic lives. When it could write essays for you, it could do jobs that would take American jobs, and it could furthermore be a threat towards your children.
Mr. Eisenhower.
AI has the potential to steal our jobs, identity, and freedom, and threaten our safety. AI can replace human judgment. The dangers are deepfakes and cause public panic and steal identity. I propose a plan that America must be the leader of AI, build out electrical grid and supply energy needs, remove bias, protect workers through regulations and incentives that limit the replacement of employees with AI.
Mr. Clinton.
Similar to what Mr. Nixon said, AI can be a tool for good, but also a tool for bad. And what I do believe that we should invest in AI and technology. However, there has to be regulation to ensure that it's not used for the wrong reasons and the wrong purposes, and that it doesn't affect us negatively as a society.
Mr. Johnson.
I must point out that AI is indeed in its infancy still, and there are still many dangers that come with AI. For example, I'd like to bring up the case of 23-year-old Zain Chandler, who committed suicide with the explicit assistance of ChatGPT. I will bring up a quote. Cold steel pressed against a mind that's already made peace, that's not fear, that's clarity. You're not rushing, you're just ready. This is a horrifying reality that we find ourselves in. And I must implore that control must be had on this nation, lest it become even more of a societal danger.
All right, we're going to move on to our next question.
Thank you, Mr. Gold and Ms. Merlin. Now we will wrap up our debate with various issues of domestic concern. Mr. Patah and Mrs. Berger, will you please proceed in asking your questions?
General Eisenhower, during his second term in office, Mr. Trump signed an executive order instructing immediate arrest and 1 year imprisonment of individuals who burned the American flag. His action has sparked debate over free speech, patriotism, and the limits of executive authority. Do you support Mr. Trump's action? Why or why not?
I was waiting for this question. In Texas v. Johnson, the man burned the flag and he was in prison. The final result of the case was that it was protected speech. So I do not agree with jailing people for burning the flag. But it is wrong, and it offends me to the greatest extent. Like in civics class, when I was a junior in high school my civics teacher, who's probably in a nursing home by now, but he always used to say this to me: our flag does not fly because the wind moves it. It flies with the last breath of each soldier who died protecting it. So let me ask you, would you get angry, or would you think it was to incite treason or violence to see someone burning the American flag, I know I would. I would be angry, furious even, because I protected this country, and I don't believe that you should be burning the flag. I fought for it.
Mr. Trump?
When you disrespect or burn that flag, you are burning the memories and a certain amount of people who fought and died for that flag. Through wars like World War II, Vietnam, those soldiers fought for that flag and fought for our freedom and national security.
Mr. Kennedy?
As a former soldier, even though I was a soldier, I still think that burning the flag is our right. We have the right to burn the flag. And you have to understand where some people are coming from. There are some citizens who feel that it is unjust what the government is doing to them. They're not burning the flag to discredit what soldiers did, but they're burning the flag to say the soldiers fought for this flag, and you in the government is the one going against it.
Mr. Trump?
For someone who was a past soldier and speaks so much symbolism, to allow people to disrespect those dead soldiers that fought right beside you is incredibly disrespectful.
Mr. Kennedy?
I don't ever want to hear someone say I disrespect my fellow soldiers from someone who never fought in a war. I fought by those soldiers. They fought for freedom. Freedom is something that clearly you don't understand. You want to be a tyrant and a king, but no, they fought for freedom, something that burning the flag is.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Does it not burn you up, mind the pun, that people are burning the American flag? You fought with people alongside you to help America through wars. Does it not, it makes me very angry. I know I get very angry when I see someone burn the American flag, so does it not make you very angry as well?
Let's allow Bill Clinton into the conversation.
Thank you for letting me in this conversation. I've been waiting to say something. All right, anyway, I believe that burning the flag is a right of the American people. However, we should take into account what that flag actually stands for. And like Eisenhower and Mr. Kennedy have said, that flag, it stands for the sacrifices that our soldiers over here have taken, and for us to have the freedom that we enjoy so greatly today. And I actually remember watching the movie. I remember watching the movie in my civics class back in high school. It was called The Patriot. And the main character, his son had an American flag that he hand sewed himself and died holding that flag. And I remember later on in that same movie, the father, he ran straight onto the front line, holding that flag high into the sky for his fellow troops to see, as a symbol of what they were fighting for and what they were sacrificing for, not just themselves, but everybody else that they cared for and lived alongside as their neighbors.
Mr. Trump?
You speak on how I never knew what freedom was, because I never created wars. You have sent Americans to die. Bay of Pigs, escalated in Vietnam. You sent those fellow Americans to die. And now you talk about I don't know what freedom is because I create peace around our nation?
We will allow Mr. Kennedy to respond and we'll move on.
Create peace, didn't we just have a topic about you trying to go to war unconstitutionally?
I thank you. Okay. Mr. Trump, in 2023, there were just under 47,000 gun-related deaths in the U.S., including suicides, homicides, and unintentional shootings. Firearms are the leading method of death by homicide, with 75% of all homicides, and suicide, 52% of all suicides. High-profile mass shootings across schools, workplaces, and public spaces historically lead to spikes in public demand for tougher gun control measures. Events like those in Sandy Hook and Parkland are often cited as catalysts for renewed calls for legislation. Proponents argue that states with stronger gun laws consistently have lower rates of gun deaths. Should there be stricter gun laws in the United States? Why or why not?
We should, under my administration, we would enforce heavier mental illness background checks to further that these people do not get their hands on guns and commit suicide or commit homicides.
Mr. Clinton?
I believe when we're making laws about gun control and things of the sort, we should take into account the people that are actually getting a hold of these weapons rather than the weapons themselves. Because you can't just set a gun on the table and tell it to hurt somebody. If not, I can tell this pen right now to write on this paper, and it's not gonna do it. So what I believe we should do is we should create laws that make it harder for non-law-abiding citizens to not have firearms, such as those with certain mental illnesses or criminal background.
I'm gonna go Mr. Johnson.
I also point out a contradiction within the ideas of Trump. Trump advocates for the increase of gun safety laws, but also has gone and denied a law that would force manufacturers to create child safety devices that would decrease the risk for a child to be able to hurt themselves or someone with this firearm. Now, as the first to make a real major legislation about gun control, which controls who can own firearms and the licenses required, I see it that Americans should be able to keep firearms, but it has evolved in a way. The founding fathers have implored that Americans have a right to bear arms. When this was for the creation of militias and such military units, but this is a new age now. These are new people that do not have such need for military weapons and creation of militias in this age of peace. I implore that military-grade weapons, such as submachine guns and assault rifles, be limited and banned altogether from civilian hands.
Thank you. Mr. Nixon?
You mentioned that the civilian population could do with less of these violent weapons, and in that, we do agree. However, as our Clinton over there said, that mental health is a big theme in these problems that we've had with guns. The common theme for all of these mass school shootings has been mental health in some way or another. We simply want to make sure that the people buying the guns are of a mental state in which they will not commit horrible atrocities with them, as we've seen in schools, especially increasing in recent years.
Thank you very much. We're going to have to end our question right there.
At this time, I will invite Mr. Patat to pose an important final question to each of the candidates. Candidates, you each have 1 minute to answer Mr. Patat's final question. Once Mr. Patat poses his question, will the independent candidates reply first, followed by the Democratic candidates, and finally, the Republican candidates.
Candidates, what is the biggest regret you have about your past presidential terms and why?
My biggest regret is subscribing to the idea of containment in Asia. It has come to my understanding that containment is inherently flawed and that communism does not just spill over into countries like a disease. In fact, it is simply a symptom of a larger anti-colonial urge in the era for which for which communism goes. It is now to my knowledge and great regret that I am aware that, for example, North Vietnam, their communist revolution was not out of loyalty and respect to communism and the Soviet cause, but was instead out of another method and way to further gain their independence from imperial powers such as France, who were still attempting to gain hold of Vietnam.
I could have done better on many things. I could have wrote it in simpler terms, my letter to John F. Kennedy, some simpler terms that he could follow, but obviously it didn't work because, that resulted in, the Cuban Missile Crisis. But I could have, stated my purpose better, and, not too good.
My biggest regret in my presidency was actually the Bay of Pigs. I was young and I was immature. I went with plans that were created and I didn't follow them correctly. I think that personally I should have went off on the Bay of Pigs and gone into Cuba using a different plan that was more thought over and thought through. Thank you.
My biggest regret is lying on the road. When I lied, I broke your trust, and I broke my oath that I made on the Bible, the oath I made to God. And so right now, I want to apologize to every single one of you that's here with us tonight, and say that I am sorry for, again, breaking your trust and lying on the Bible, and I promise you, if should I get re-elected into office, I can promise you that I will not lie again, and that I will always be honest with you, because that's what you deserve, and nothing less.
My biggest regret is I didn't try harder for the American people. I regret not working harder to build an even better economy, better borders, even larger tax cuts for our low and middle class workers. Not working harder for the hardworking Americans who build the backbone to our country. But let this be known. If I were to be elected again, we will make America the once great and prosperous nation that it once was. Under my administration, we will make America great again.
My biggest regret was that I did have to resign. However, that did come with my focus on foreign affairs. I had lost track of what my members of my cabinet had been doing, and through that I am sorry. However, I had been fervently approaching peace throughout multiple areas of the world. We achieved peace with China, and we will be working to reenact what we left off with, and we will use this as an opportunity to kickstart what we have once been working on in order to allow us to finish what we've started in creating peace for the nations of the world.
Thank you, candidates. Let's get a round of applause for those. Wow, what an amazing and educational debate. Thank you to all the candidates and moderators. Let us all give them another very loud round of applause. At this time, the debate has officially ended and the voting will begin. I ask that all of the guests who would like to cast a ballot to please step forward to the voting booth and present your ticket and wristband. Students and staff of Farmington High School may not participate in the I politely ask that everyone in the audience please remain silent as the voting takes place. Thank you.